Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. In front of me, I have two iPhones. On the right is an iPhone 6s. On the left is an iPhone 6s Plus. Now, these devices are both running iOS 9, as you can see right there. We're going to go ahead and slide to unlock, and we're met with the iOS 9 home screen. Now, first things first, let's head into settings and see which version of iOS 9 we have. So they are actually both running 9.3.3. They are both 16 gigabyte models as well. Now, if you guys are new to the channel and new to the hobby of collecting old iOS devices, you know how hard it is to find these. The reason for that is it's kind of a long story, but in short, most iOS 9 iPhone 6s and iPhone SEs are unable to activate. So what that means is when you're met with the slide to setup screen, as if it was a new iPhone, once you connect to Wi-Fi, the device just won't activate. It gives you an error. The only way to get around that is to update the software on your iPhone. Of course, nobody wants to do that because iOS 9 is the original version of iOS that these phones shipped with back in 2015 when they launched. With that said, let's spend a little bit of time on the history of these devices. So, 2014, Apple releases the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus. Huge changes for the iPhone lineup. They brought the larger screen size, the powerful dual-core A8 processor, improved camera, and overall, it was a huge change and a much-needed upgrade for the iPhone series. However, the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus were kind of underpowered. So, enter 2015. Apple releases the iPhone 6s and the 6s Plus. These devices fixed almost all of the problems the iPhone 6 had. They fixed the bend gate issue. Using stronger aluminum and making the devices a little bit thicker, these iPhones no longer would bend in your pocket. Apple also introduced the A9 chip inside of these iPhones. That was a substantial improvement in performance over the A8 that was in the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. So if we take a look here at the Mac Tracker application, we scroll down to find iPhone, and we go a little ways down. We'll take the iPhone 6. Now, this device, of course, has the A8 processor, which is a 1.4 gigahertz dual-core chip, and it comes with 1 gigabyte of memory. Now, the iPhone 6s has the dual-core A9 processor, but this one is clocked at 1.85 gigahertz, so significantly faster, and now we have 2 gigabytes of memory, which is a big improvement over the 1 gigabyte in the iPhone 6. That 2 gigabytes of memory allows for this phone to keep older applications open in the background, and it makes multitasking a breeze on these devices. So you can open a bunch of different applications. There's no slowdown at all in the performance of this device. And then you can just multitask back to whatever you had open previously, and it's still there. Animations are super fluid here on iOS 9, and the iPhone 6s was a very successful device. Of course, it had iOS 9, and it would get updates to iOS 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, making it the most updated iPhone to date. Even the iPhone 7, which launched a year later and was quite a bit more powerful with its quad-core processor, would also only get updates to iOS 15. That is a testament to this device and just how powerful it was. Now, one thing we have to mention on the iPhone 6s is the camera, because this got an upgrade. For the first time since the iPhone 4S, we got an increase in megapixel counts. So now, instead of 8 megapixels, which we saw from the 4S, 5, 5S, and the iPhone 6, we now have 12 megapixels on our camera. That means you can take really nice photos and you can zoom in without losing as much quality as you would have before. Of course, the iPhone 6s Plus, like the iPhone 6 Plus, gets optical image stabilization. So let's see if I can show you guys what that's going to look like. Before I do that, I want to turn on 60 FPS video recording, which was introduced in the iPhone 6, but it was refined here in the 6s. And of course, we did get 4K 30 FPS video, which I am going to show you guys how that looks here in just a minute. But now we're going to look at the optical image stabilization. We have our 6s here on the right, and if I kind of shake it, you can see how wobbly that image gets. The 6s Plus, with its optical image stabilization, when I shake the phone, the image stays more so centered and it is less shaky. Now, I'm going to show you guys 1080p 60 FPS here on the iPhone 6s Plus. So we're going to go ahead and switch to that now. And of course the audio is not going to be as good because we don't have that dedicated microphone, but this is 60 FPS video recording and audio at 1080p with our iPhone 6s Plus. It looks pretty good, and if we take a look here at our iPhone 6s, pretty good quality. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a 4K 30 FPS video here on our iPhone 6s. That way I can show you guys that one as well. So here we are, 4K 30 FPS. This is the iPhone 6s, and you can tell if I shake that device, it is pretty shaky without that image stabilization. But the quality is much nicer here with 4K resolution, and you can actually zoom in while you're recording there and get those details. Of course, this is an iPhone 7 running iOS 10. Can show you that right here. And that is a quick look at the video capabilities of the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. So now we got to talk about iOS 9 on these devices. Incredibly hard to find. It's really something special here to have both of these at the same time running iOS 9 because, like I mentioned earlier, there is a crippling software flaw where these devices no longer activate properly. There's kind of a long story for that. If someone wants to summarize what happened there down in the comments, that would be great. It basically revolves around an Apple employee allowing the signing of iOS 9 so people could downgrade their devices. Now, let's look at those iOS 9 wallpapers. I really like these down here at the bottom. I think they look fantastic. So if we set this as our wallpaper there on the iPhone 6s, and then we pick something a little more extravagant here on our 6s Plus, how about this one? We'll set that as our wallpaper there. And there you have it. Of course, the stock iOS 9 wallpaper does look super nice on these devices. It's very distinctive and it kind of gives away what version of iOS they're running, but I think these complement the devices very well. Now, something else I want to test out here is the keyboard, because I'm under the impression, I know iOS 8 had this, but I don't know if iOS 9 did. If you turn to landscape, oh yes it does. You see these extra little buttons and things over here on the edges. Apple removed that. I want to say that was gone from iOS 10, but I actually think it's very nice. It allows you to do quite a bit here on this iPhone 6s Plus. But what I'm going to do, you can kind of see how this allows you, almost like the arrow keys on a keyboard, you can switch back and forth there, going between characters. And that helps a lot when you've misspelled something. So you can just quickly, instead of having to press and hold, and that's kind of clumsy, you sort of cover up the letters there. All you got to do is just push the little buttons there. I think it's super nice, and you've also got some of the punctuation marks over there as well. Now, that was also included here on the iPhone 6s, but you lost some of those features because the display is not quite as big. So here we've got a little comparison there between the keyboards. You can see the 6s Plus has more room and has got more options. Or you even got cut, copy, and paste over there on the left side, whereas the iPhone 6s does not have that. And we can't forget about 3D Touch. That was introduced here on the 6s on iOS 9, where you physically pushed harder on the display and you got more options from certain applications. Now, Apple removed this in the iPhone 11, but it has stayed around in the form of 3D Touch, which is very similar, but not quite the same. So pretty cool feature there on the iPhone 6s. This was also the first iPhone to feature that haptic motor, where Apple really upped the game and changed the industry in terms of the vibrations that cell phones have. Up until this time, they were very loud and clanky and just felt cheap. For the first time in this iPhone, you are unable to hear when the phone is vibrating. Now it's just a very tactile, and of course it's called haptic feedback, but that's how it is. It literally like shakes the phone. You can feel it without having to hear the vibration. It's very nice, and it has become better and better on the newer devices, and it's something that if you go back in time and use one of those old iPhones, you'll notice right away just how cheap that vibration motor feels. These are, of course, in the space gray color, and the iPhone 6s was the first to introduce a fourth color option for the iPhones. Of course, you did have space gray, you had silver, you had gold, and then you had rose gold for the first time. Now that carried over into the iPhone 7, but the 6s was where that was introduced for the first time. All right, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this quick look at an iPhone 6s and a 6s Plus running iOS 9 here in 2024. Hard enough to find one, and the fact that I've got both here is pretty incredible. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in another one of my videos.